Most people think surviving a crisis takes a cart full of expensive gear. They're wrong. The cheapest store in your town can carry your family for 2 weeks. I learned that in uniform. When the trucks stop rolling, the shelves empty in hours, not days, hours. And in a small town, that Dollar General strips faster than anywhere. 9 cheap items, most of them $1 or $2. Everything a veteran grabs before the panic hits. But the very first item isn't food or water. It's sitting in the glue aisle. And it stops bleeding like a battlefield dressing. Start in the glue aisle. I know how that sounds. Stay with me. A tube of super glue costs about $1. That exact chemistry once sealed wounds on the battlefield. It's called cyanoacrylate. Around 1966, military surgical teams sprayed it onto open wounds. Men were bleeding out before they reached a hospital. The glue held them together long enough to survive. That same chemistry earned FDA approval in 1998. Doctors sell it as Dermabond today. You buy the raw version for $1. Here's what civilians never learn. A deep cut with no stitches available is a real threat. It bleeds. It gapes. It gets infected. Most people just wrap it and hope for the best. A trained man closes it. You clean the cut first. You pinch the edges together. You run a thin line of glue across the top seam, not down inside the wound, across the surface. It seals in seconds and holds. Watch what $1 tube does for you. It closes a splitting cut on your hand. It seals a cracked, bleeding fingertip. It stops a hot spot from tearing wide open. It even repairs the gear you can't replace. One tiny tube. 4 separate jobs. A stitch kit you don't know how to use costs far more and does less. Now understand the stakes. An open wound in a crisis is an open door. No pharmacy, no antibiotics, no urgent care down the road. That small cut turns septic, and a septic wound in a collapse is a death sentence on a slow timer. You shut that door in seconds for $1. Most people spend nothing on this because they've never thought of it. That blind spot is your advantage. One hard rule before we move on. This is for small, clean cuts only. Never deep, gaping, dirty, or animal bite wounds. Never near your eyes. And it's a field fix, not a replacement for a real doctor when one exists. Know that difference now, long before you ever need it. That battlefield trick is one of dozens I've put on paper for you. First link in the description for the day the signal's gone. Water goes first. Every single time. The rule is 1 gallon per person per day. Dollar General stocks gallon jugs and bottle packs for pocket change. Watch any storm coverage on the news. The water aisle is stripped clean before the rain even starts. Most people assume the tap will always run. Then a main breaks or the grid drops and the pressure dies with it. Now they're staring at a dry faucet with a thirsty family. You won't be. Remember Texas in the winter of 2021. Millions lost power and safe water at the same time. Store shelves went bare in a single day. The ones who had water stored wrote it out at home. The ones who waited went searching. Here's how you build it. Buy several gallons for the house as your base supply. Grab a handful of small bottles for your truck and your bag. The big jugs stay home. The small bottles move with you when you move. Store them somewhere cool and dark. Keep them up off bare concrete so they last longer. And fill your bathtub the second a storm shows on the radar. That's dozens more gallons for washing and flushing. 3 gallons per person covers you for 3 days. That's the exact baseline FEMA sets for a household. Now understand the stakes, because they're higher than people think. You can go weeks without food. You last about 3 days without water. Dehydration clouds your judgment first. Then it steals your strength. Then it drops you where you stand. Here's the mistake I see over and over. People spend $20 on fancy water pouches with a 5-year label. Nice to have later. That same $20 buys you far more plain water right now, while the shelf is still full. Water is also your leverage once things get hard. The person who stored it holds the cards. The person who didn't goes begging for it. Skip this one item and nothing else on this list matters. Fire, light, medicine, none of it saves a body that's already dried out. Water is the floor everything else stands on. You build it first, and you build it deep. Now you feed the family for months. A bag of white rice, a bag of dried beans, a few dollars each at Dollar General. Eaten together, they make a complete protein. That's not folklore. That's the exact pairing that carried whole nations through their hardest years, kept dry and sealed, both last 25 to 30 years on a shelf. Here's what civilians get wrong. They stuff the freezer full and call it prepping. Then the power dies. 3 days later, that food is spoiling in a warm box. They can't cook it. They can't save it. A month of groceries rots while they watch. Rice and beans don't care about the grid. They sit on the shelf and wait for you. Store them right, and they're bulletproof. Airtight container. Cool, dark, and dry. Add them into your normal cooking so nothing ever sits forgotten. Watch what this pairing does for you. It fills empty bellies with real lasting calories. It gives you protein with no refrigeration at all. It stretches further per dollar than almost anything in the store. And a bag of rice trades well when a hungry neighbor runs dry. One bag of rice holds thousands of calories. Stack a few bags per person and you've covered weeks, not days. The math is brutal in your favor. Pennies a serving for food that outlives the emergency. Compare that to freeze-dried survival buckets running hundreds of dollars. Same calories. A fraction of the price. And you can actually stand to eat it every day. Here's the failure most people walk straight into. They plan for 3 days and run dry on day 4. Then they're hungry and desperate with the stores already stripped. Hunger makes people stupid, and it makes them dangerous. You planned in weeks for the cost of a few bags. Rice and beans are the boring backbone of the whole run. Boring is exactly what keeps you fed. Now pay close attention. This is the one to write down. Plain, unscented bleach is a water purifier hiding in the cleaning aisle. One small bottle costs a little over $1. That single bottle can make an enormous amount of dirty water safe to drink. Here's the exact method, straight from EPA guidance. 8 drops of regular 6% bleach per gallon of clear water. If your bleach is the stronger 8.25%, use 6 drops instead. Stir it well. Let it stand for 30 minutes. It should carry a faint chlorine smell when it's done. If it doesn't, add the same dose and wait again. Cloudy or very cold water gets double, and you filter it through cloth first. That's the whole protocol. The chlorine kills the bacteria and viruses that put people in the ground after a disaster. This is the same water discipline the military lives by in the field. Out there, bad water pulls more troops out of the fight than the enemy ever does. It was the same after Katrina. Broken sanitation drove much of the sickness, not the storm itself. Now here's the civilian mistake. Most people panic, buy a filter for $20 to $40 or more. Nothing wrong with a good filter. But they never think of the $1 bottle that treats hundreds of gallons. Let that ratio land on you. 1 bottle, hundreds of gallons of drinkable water. Run the cost per gallon, and nothing on earth beats it. And it isn't only water. That same bleach sanitizes the surfaces you prepare food on. It cleans the area around a wound before you dress it. It disinfects the shared gear that quietly makes a whole household sick. 2 catches you have to respect. Use only plain, unscented bleach with no color-safe formula, no additives, and no scent. And bleach loses its strength over the months, so you rotate it just like you rotate food. Because most people who die after a disaster don't die from the disaster. They die from what they drank afterward. This $1 is how you stay off that list. Fire is a priority, not an afterthought. Cheap disposable lighters are the fastest, reliable flame you can buy. Grab a multi-pack, then grab a box of matches to back them up. Here's the rule your training beats into you. 1 is none. 2 is 1. Anything you truly need, you carry more than 1 of. Civilians buy a single lighter and feel prepared. Then it gets wet, or it runs dry, or it walks off in somebody else's pocket. Now they've got no fire and no backup at the worst possible moment. That's a failure you can erase for $1. Understand how much fire actually does for you. It boils questionable water until it's safe to drink. It cooks that rice and beans into a hot meal. It warms you when the heat is dead and the cold is settling into your bones. It signals for help across a long, dark distance. And it steadies scared people, because a calm group stays a living group. One